First off, I just kind of want to go through a little quick agenda. That picture of me that you see was actually at a venture cafe last year in July, where I did a workshop about intersectionality in reference to diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is what I focus on with Ellen Lewis Consulting, my for-profit company that I run. But for today's talk, we're going to talk about how did I get all of that done, and how do you start your own? So first, we're going to talk about, do you have to quit your job? A lot of people ask that first. They think that I'm asking them to do a completely different career fold than what they're already on. How do I know I have something to offer? How do I register my business online if I decide to do that? And how much do I charge? And I don't have a lot of money. I didn't start off with a lot of money. So people are like, I don't have a lot of money. So how do I even promote myself? And then at the end, I'll have some tools and takeaway. Throughout, I was able to kind of coordinate with some of the resources that I use and get some affiliate codes and some referral codes for you. So you'll have that available from this presentation as well. And I'll sneak it over to Lauren so that it's in a PDF document, and you can just go through and click links and get directly to those codes if you decide to use some of the sources here. All right. I love this saying, success is not a solo sport. It's from an author, Minda Harts, who decided to embark on a challenge of her own where she went out to put her voice out there about what it was like being a woman of color working in the corporate arena. Minda and I met during a panel discussion in Philadelphia. And the conference was actually for Black women in tech, which I wasn't expecting to see so many people that look like me at a conference, but we happened to be sitting on a panel together, and the saying just stuck to me, because when we think about consulting, we're thinking about how we're helping other people, and sometimes we have that solo state of mind that you have to kind of, pull yourself up by your bootstraps and do it on your own. And when Minda said that success is not a solo sport, it really kind of stuck to me. And it showed me that not only what I was doing as a consultant was important and helpful for other people, but it was important and helpful for other people to help me out, to get the word out for my own. And what I was doing was very influential. So let's start off with the topic of what is consulting. I wanted to do this, and I was like, people don't even really know what it is. And it's really one simple thing. You're just giving advice to someone. If you've ever been asked and said, have I ever been able to help someone cook or bake or change a tire or anything like that? Have people come to me and ask for my advice on something? If so, then you're a consultant. That's literally what that whole entire thing is. So I listed some common things with hobbies. Most people don't think about the hobbies that they do as kind of prime and ripe for consulting. There are people who make jewelry, people who cook, like I said, people who design. There are some people who are very good at taking things and putting things together and looking at a room and being able to, decide where to put furniture. That is something I can't do, but I would love to hire somebody to do it. Sports, games, but people who play video games consult other people and tell them how to get better at it. For business, that's usually the most popular one. We're thinking of project management and diversity and inclusion initiatives like what I do. And there's so many more things that people can consult on. But keep in mind a few things when you're starting out. One, you know a lot more than you think you know. A lot of people tend to think that, oh, I only do this on the side and I only do it for just a short period of time. And they think that that short period of time isn't enough to call themselves a consultant in something. But you can help anyone, because there are some people who have no idea of how to get started. And technically, if you're closer to the starting point, it tends to help people out a lot. Think about when you're going through orientation at a job, you kind of get this insightful stuff from a person that just started that maybe you don't get from somebody that's been doing the same job for 20 years. Even successful folks need help. And that's something that you really have to think about breaking in your brain, is that if a person is successful, then they don't need help. Again, success is not a solo sport. They always go and search and seek help. I tend to tell people don't be intimidated by titles. That is something that kind of was instilled in me as a little kid. I will go up to anyone and talk to anyone about anything if I have a question about it. But sometimes people kind of hold back and say, you know, oh, this person is the chief executive officer of a Fortune 500 company. Doesn't matter. There's probably something that you can offer that person that they might not have been able to do before. And because they're asking for your help, they need it. It's got nothing to do with titles. Stay focused on the goal. A lot of times we tend to kind of go off on the wayside and think, okay, well, maybe this person needs this, or they're actually looking for this other type of help. And really what you need to do is just kind of stay focused and say, you know, if my job is like mine, helping someone to make their companies more diverse, you need to kind of slim that down in your head and stay focused on that and know that that's what you're doing, that's what you're helping with. Some people have probably talked about imposter syndrome, and you kind of go off on these other tangents, but really just kind of stay focused and say, this is what I'm doing, and this is the type of help this person needs. But within that, I like to say leave room for adjustments. I tend to stray away from boilerplates. When I started doing my company, people were like, you know, what kind of metrics are you using and what are you doing? And then I found out that the type of work that I was doing, which is helping companies after diversity training, so that second step, they've had diversity training, what to do. I needed to kind of leave a little leeway because what I thought they might have needed might not have been what they needed. So I decided to kind of give an open scope and say, okay, we're going to sit down, we're going to have this conversation. You're going to set the goals for me. Tell me where you want to be. And then let's work together to create a plan. And that ends up being successful technically 100% of the times now of the companies that I've talked to. As opposed to kind of coming in and just giving them this boilerplate and say, these are the things you need to do to be diverse, equitable, and inclusive. It was more like, okay, let's look at your pain points, let's be truthful, and let's keep in mind exactly where we need to go. All right. When I started doing diversity and inclusion consulting, people were thinking that I needed to quit my day job. To consult, you don't have to do that. One of the things I tend to tell people is that consulting gigs are pretty much kind of like how you do hobbies and other things. They're usually things you do on the side. A lot of times people are already consulting and they have no idea that they're doing it. And I tell people, it's like you should actually seriously consider just having that as something in your back pocket that you can always go to regardless of where the economy is and regardless of where you are in maybe your structured employer-based career. Still have something on the side that's just for you, that kind of shows a little bit of your knowledge and kind of lets you shine and flare. How do I know I have something to offer? I tell people, if somebody's asked you for advice or help, you have something to offer. Most of us have been looked at as the person in our family that knew something. For me, I'm the technologist. I have a background as a computer engineer. I've worked for MasterCard and other companies. And even today, some people are just like, hey, this website I have, I need some adjustments to it. So I know that I have that to offer in addition to my diversity and inclusion consulting business, where I've also been asked, you know, what do I do to make my company more diverse? And the candidates I hire, they're all the same. How do I change? If they're asking you, then you have something to offer. So really kind of consider that you are in the space that you need to be in. Down here, I have something that's called Business Pain, which is an HR consultant, Liz Ryan, who is an HR consultant for a huge company. I told people that one of the things that they're always looking at whenever they look at resumes, whenever they're looking at consultants, is someone that can solve business pain, someone that can go in, find out what the issue is, and then actually work to help people solve it. And you can do that as an employer with a employee with a company, or you can do that as a consultant. So I've told you all of this good things, and all these good things, and you're just like, okay, I'm ready to go. How do I get started? So the cool thing is I looked up, and I believe in both Illinois and Missouri, if you want to do a sole proprietorship, you can pretty much do that on your own. And what is a sole proprietorship? Basically, it's you as a company. So if I want a company that says my name, LaShana Lewis Incorporated, I can go out there and actually have a company just in my name, but I don't have to do all of this extraneous paperwork of registering things like that. I don't even have to get what's called an employee ID number. So I could just kind of do it under my own social security number and just get started. Some people like that. They want to do that so they can test the waters in the lowest possible financial way they possibly can. But if you want a little bit more legal protection, there's something called an LLC, a limited liability corporation, that you can register yourself online. And I'll show you a couple of screenshots of those in just a second. But I chose to do an LLC later because the scope of what I do, it gives me a little bit more separation between my personal work and my business work. So for the state of Missouri, this is basically where you would go. You would go to, excuse me, the Missouri Secretary of State website. I got a little screenshot of it over there. And what you would do is you'll see this big Missouri logo there for business services. And then you'll look for, when you click on business services, you'll see something called search for a business. And one of the things you want to do is type the name in of the business or the company that you want to create. The reason I have you do this is that there's a little bit of legal issue if you happen to have the same name as a company that already exists in your state. It's not a big thing. Sometimes companies are fine with it. And, if I decide to name mine LaShana Lewis and another LaShana Lewis in Missouri decides to name her company LaShana Lewis, we may mutually decide it's fine. She may be in Kansas City and I may be in St. Louis, and we may be okay with that. But sometimes people run into a little bit of a headbutt with that. So I usually tell people search to make sure that that company name doesn't exist already in your state. And then you're pretty good to go. You kind of surmount that and you don't have to think about it later. And if not, you once you're in Missouri Secretary of State page, you do that search. You don't see it there, you can go to the business entity homepage. It's over on the left-hand side. And then you want to click on the step-by-step registration guides to actually step you through the process. Right now, the way that I've done it, it's super kind of easy and straightforward. It only took me maybe an hour or two to get everything together and aligned. And I was able to get a nice letter that said, Ellen Lewis Consulting is a business right here in Missouri. You don't even need to leave your home to do that. For the state of Illinois, same thing, Illinois Secretary of State. Their website is Cyberdrive, Illinois. And go to the business section and then more business. And then you do the Corp LLC search, and the same thing. You want to search to make sure that name doesn't exist already. And then if not, then you can go back to services. It's right there at the top, and then click business, and then decide on the type of business style that you want. Since we're here, I'll take a couple of seconds and I'll talk about the different types of businesses. Most people stop at sole proprietorship, partnership, which is another type where it's the two of you essentially instead of just the one, or LLC. Some people get a little bit deeper. For people in the legal profession, they may have an LLP. There are S corporations and things of that nature. And the bigger you are, the bigger your goals, probably the bigger and more expensive your corporation is going to be. But for right now, we're just starting off small. Sole proprietorship, general partnership, or LLC are usually the way for people to go. All right, how much do I charge? So what I did is I looked this up kind of incessantly to try to figure out how much do I charge for my services? How much do I charge? So basically, this is what they told me to do. If you already have done that job and that's what you're going to do as a consultant, like you did that job under an employer, then take what you made per hour and multiply that by 3. The reason you want to do that is because you have to remember now you're providing all of the benefits and things like that for yourself. An employer is not doing that for you. So as a consultant, you want to make sure that you have enough, that you're charging enough to be able to cover your own expenses that are involved with you doing that service. If you've never done that job before, there's you can go to Glassdoor, and I think it's salary.com and a few other sites, and just kind of Google and see for your job in that particular industry, in your state, in your city, how much people normally charge, and then you can kind of make the calculations from there. So you've got all of this stuff set up. You've got your business set up. You're kind of ready and raring to go. You don't have a lot of money. How do you promote? I tell people that you can basically create kind of this market, this brand for yourself. And one of the first things that I did is I created a website because I wanted to have something to point people to. It's all good and fine. You tell people you offer consulting services, but it's probably going to leave their mind 5 minutes after they see you. But if you give them something that they can go to read later or to research, or maybe they have other people they need to talk to first before they decide to go in and do a contract with you. You want to kind of have a website established that just kind of highlights some of the different skills that you offer and different things that you have. The other thing that people normally don't know to do, but they can start doing right now, literally, as soon as you get off of this phone call, is start creating kind of yourself in this expert realm. Sometimes people do that through medium.com, and they create a medium.com blog, and then they just talk about whatever it is their specialty is. If you like working with Windows servers, you can start a Windows servers kind of blog or article. If you do diversity, equity, and inclusion, like I do, I started a Medium post, and I just talk about different topics and different things that come along in my head. I especially hit on the Starbucks thing when that happened. So I did a whole long post about that. But those things are looked at and they're picked up. And sometimes there are other media that are way more popular that are like, hey, I love that you did that article. Do you mind if I share it in my magazine or newspaper? And a lot of times they tend to offer you a fee or something like that, or link back. Email marketing. Get yourself like a MailChimp or Constant Contact or something like that, and start accruing like an email list. That could just come from business cards. I get a ton of business cards all the time from different people. And usually what I do is that I kind of gather them together and put them into, you want to do the soft contact first and say, hey, it was great talking to you at the XYZ conference. Here's some information about me, and ask if they want to be added to an email list, or get a link to your email list and then offer them to be added to there. And then that way you can kind of keep this rotating contact going on, and people can kind of find out things about you. Like if you wrote a new post, or your website is updated, or you're going to be doing a panel discussion here or there. Create social media pages. So you want to make sure you create like a LinkedIn or a Facebook page. Usually I try to stop at those two. If you want to do Twitter and other things like Snapchat, that's totally up to you. It depends on the type of service that you're offering or whatever product that you have to offer. But I tell people, make sure that you're on social media, because even though it tends to kind of feel a little like too like out there, people are really looking to see what kind of voice you have. And you'll hear me repeat this a couple of times, is that you are your brand. So when you start consulting, when you start putting your things together, people want to see who you are, other than just the articles and the emails. They're like, what kind of mind do you have? Where are you kind of shifting? And are people listening to you? Are people responding to you? And then you can start having conversations, and that may end up being fodder for another article or another post, or maybe another service that you end up offering because you ended up having this conversation. So being out there and being in mediums like that tend to kind of draw people in. if you are doing things like, if anybody noticed for today's event, I did a little bit of Facebook advertising. And even though maybe I only got maybe, I think 10 clicks on it, it was still kind of worth it to me because I actually only pay so much. So I can actually monitor and say, I only want to spend $10 and I want to advertise just in the St. Louis region to men and women between the ages of 18 and 65 that are interested in business. And then I do that, and for $10, they kind of tell me how many people I might reach in the area, and it puts the ad out there, and I'm good and golden. And the good thing is because Facebook and Instagram are tied together, you kind of get a 2-for-1. Your Facebook ad ends up also being on Instagram, even if you don't have an Instagram site, which I thought that was pretty cool. All right. Here's another quote. Liz Ryan, the HR consultant that I mentioned to you earlier, she says, "Nothing holds you back except the belief that consultants are more experienced, more highly educated, or more knowledgeable than you are." One of the things that I found out is that Liz Ryan actually has a course that says like how to start your own consulting firm that's way more detailed than what I'm presenting for you today. And I was able to get in contact with her people over the weekend, and they were able to get me a referral code. So the course is, I know it's clearly over $100, but they were able to get it down to $79. So if you use that link down there, you should take you directly to the course, and you should see that it's still listed for that same price, and it'll tell you what the original price is down there. But again, I'm going to try to get this whole thing downloaded and over to Lauren so that she can email it out and get it out to everyone. All right, some tools and takeaways that I promised you. The Launch Your Consultant Business course, you got the referral link. You'll see that. How to Start Consulting on the Side is an article that Liz Ryan did through Forbes, and it just basically talks about a little bit more in detail about how to kind of get things going. Consulting fees and rates, that was something that I told you that I looked at, but it breaks down why you should in a lot more detail. And you may kind of even decide that in addition to a rate that you have, that you maybe need to charge a fee, like a research fee or something like that on top of whatever you're doing, especially if you're doing something where you're kind of going in and trying to get a little bit more information about what a particular client needs. So this whole getting down to business portion, you'll see about 4 items that I have down there. We're going to go through them in detail on each slide, but these are all places that I personally use to kind of help my consulting business get off the ground. So I wanted to be able to kind of share that with everyone today. All right. So the first one is QuickBooks Self-Employed. A lot of people tend to think that when they're starting off and they're doing a business that they have to open up all these different accounts and all of this other stuff. When you're starting out, you may not want to. For me, I ended up using one account, which is my personal account. I am married, so I still have my own personal checking account. And what I was able to do with QuickBooks Self-Employed, since I was just starting out and just starting to kind of ramp up things, once I found this, I was able to actually itemize out the different transactions that I had. So I would know, okay, well, this was a desk that I bought and that's for business purposes, or this was a t-shirt that I bought for personal. And it lets you divide that out and even further categorize it so that you're able to kind of see what your profit and loss is over the year. So what you see there is an actual screenshot of my profit and loss, expenses, invoices, and mileage for last year. The other reason I like this app so much is because I was able to calculate in my mileage. And I don't even have to actually do it. I actually just, there's an app, you download it onto your cell phone, and you keep it in your pocket. You just make sure that the mileage portion is turned on, and I keep it on. I never turn it off. And every so many days I go back and it actually tracks and it says, you know, I left my home here and I traveled somewhere in the Central West End, and I can say whether that was business or not, and even kind of put a little note in and say, oh, I was picking up flyers for an event. And from that, they decided to do, they always keep up with the standard mileage, so you don't have to do that. So they calculated all that for me, and I was able to find out I did like $8,000 worth of traveling last year. And if you were to ask me, I probably wouldn't have thought that I did nearly that much. So kind of one of the things that I found really, really helpful. Right now, QuickBooks Self-Employed is being offered for, I have a 50% off referral code, but last I checked, it's $1 a month right now. So that's something that you might want to jump on right now while they have the expenses so low. But if you don't jump onto, and I think that's for a limited time only, so I don't know when that's going to end. But just in case it ends before you can get a chance to invest in getting QuickBooks Self-Employed, I've got a referral code down there for 50% off. All right. And by the way, it will let you deduct home office expenses. So like I'll go back here and you'll see that rent, utilities, things like that you use partially for business, you can actually take a percentage off and it will just deduct that and put that into business expenses for you. When you get started, you're going to want a nice little logo. I did. So I went to this place called Logojoy, which is now called Looka. And what Looka does is it kind of has some pre-formatted vector-based logos, and those are logos that are actually drawn in. So they're images as opposed to something that's kind of like a picture. So what the good thing is about vector-based images is that you can shrink them or grow them as big or little as you need, and they look pretty good regardless. So what I was able to do was go to Looka, which was Logojoy at the time, give them the name of my consulting firm, tell them what I did, and they showed me a whole bunch of different logos, and I just chose one that I really liked. That kind of has that gold sheen on it that you see. And not only did they kind of create this logo for me with a byline and all of this other good stuff, they also gave it to me pre-formatted. So what you'll see down here, and I'll highlight that with my mouse, all of those came from Logojoy. So they sent me pre-formatted for Facebook, for Instagram, for iPad, for QuickBooks, so that whenever I set up like my profile and things like that, I didn't have to try to size it appropriately. It was already sized. These up here are Facebook profile pre-sized, so I don't even have to worry about whether or not it's the right cut, color, style, all this other stuff. I just needed to choose something. So they not only give you a color version of your logo, they also give you a black and white version, and you may need that for different websites and for different reasons. So I found an affiliate link, so that's down here at the bottom. You can always go there and get a certain percentage off. And they change what the offers are, so I don't know what it is right now, but you do get something for being able to go to that affiliate link to kind of help you out and get you started with the logo. Now you've got your logo, you got your QuickBooks all set up, you're gonna need a business card. Some people like Vistaprint. That's cool. I used to use Vistaprint all the time. I like Move because I was able to update my logo and do a couple of cool things. One of the things they do now is they actually have gold foil, which you'll see right here. And the business card I have, I don't have any because I ran out, but mine actually have a gold foil LaShana Lewis Consulting logo on it. So when you look at it and you hold it, it kind of sheens a little bit. So that was kind of something that I just wanted because I wanted to kind of set myself apart. And I highly suggest your business card reflects the type of person you are and your kind of design ethic, because it sets you out apart from everybody else that might be doing kind of something similar or offering similar services. So I do have a referral code down here. It's MOO25 LML, and that's a 25% off for getting any of those business cards. The last thing, and I'll also say that I happen to be wearing this shirt, is that get yourself an embroidered shirt. Some people skip that part. They go right into business cards and other things, but it's just like, you are your walking brand. When you start consulting, you are the business, you are the billboard. So I was able to find this company called Queensboro that's in New York. They offer kind of like this one-time shirt option if you want to get it just so you can test it out and see how it is for you. Um, if you go down there, you'll see the referral code for it, but they actually embroider your logo and everything for you, and they show it to you. They send it to you after they kind of test it out, and they're like, is this okay? So I needed a few more tweaks, and we talked back and forth, and I was okay with the tweaks, and then they customized the shirt for me. One of the things I tell people, get the shirt a little bit bigger than what you normally would wear, because it's really cool to be able to kind of just put it on over whatever you're wearing at the time and then take it off. That way it doesn't kind of get worn too much. When I got this shirt, I spent like 15 bucks on it. I think that was kind of the total cost, including shipping. But usually Queensboro has really good deals when you want to just give the one to try shirt, which is what this one is. If I ever decide later that I want to get a bunch of different shirts, they still have my logo and all the embroidery. Maybe I want hats or something else. Then all of that stuff is already pre-made and I don't have to have that conversation with them anymore. They're a great company. Customer service is great. So I would recommend them. All right. And the last but not least thing I try to tell people is that when you become a consultant, you also kind of have to create hype on yourself. If you're like me and you're a nerd, you're not used to doing that. You're used to people talking about you, but not you talking about yourself. So one of the things I had to do was kind of ease myself into it. And that was with doing Q&As and with panels. So as you see here, I was on a panel with Sharita Love, you see over there, and Dixie Gillespie was actually leading it and was talking about diversity and inclusion. So one of the things we were able to do is kind of highlight our own personal stories and our own personal journeys, which is what you end up doing a lot of times on panels. I tell people to start off there. If you're not the person that's ready to speak behind a podium, that's cool, you know, but do start somewhere. The other thing I did is I looked for speaking opportunities at conferences. Conferences often have panels and sometimes they don't have enough people for those. So sometimes I would look through and see, you know, what kind of sessions they're trying to have, and there are speaking opportunities available. So even if you're cool with doing maybe a 20-minute PowerPoint slide presentation, that ends up being a pretty good opportunity to kind of get your name out there and get yourself more established. Plus, you can kind of put speaker on things, and then people are like, oh, this person will kind of come and give advice. The speaking gigs actually ended up lending into business opportunities. So somebody would see me speak at a conference, and then they'd say, oh, my business is trying to do something in diversity and inclusion. We would love to have you sit down with us and try to figure out a plan. And it kind of tumbles from there. Do a Venture Cafe breakout session. That's what we're doing right now. Sign up to HeyRo, which is called Help a Reporter Out. What it is that sometimes reporters are doing a story and they don't have enough like consultants or specialists for something. Help a Reporter Out is actually kind of like this database that emails you once a day, all these different reporters and what they need somebody to talk on. So if I don't know, St. Louis American needed someone that did diversity and inclusion consulting, but also happened to be in the tech realm. It would say that on there, as well as the name of the reporter that's doing it. And the reporter will even tell you, hey, I just need a quote that's so many words. And as a return, we'll also put your name in there and we'll put a link to your website. That kind of helps get your name out there. I've done it a few times. It's always ended up being awesome. And I take those links to those press related things and I throw them on my website, and it shows that I've contributed within that conversation. Last but not least, in addition to creating that email newsletter that I told you about that you're gonna hopefully do right after this, attend networking events. And that's kind of just to more so get saturated in the community, learn more about what you can do to kind of boost up your consulting business and kind of get more of a pulse on what other things are happening and other people who are probably working with you. I've even had it where another consulting firm that did something slightly different than myself needed someone to tag team with on a particular panel or discussion, and I was able to kind of make that networking connection happen. So again, remember your brand is you. So everything you're doing, everything you're saying, everything you do in regard to your consulting company is you. It's going to come back to you and going to reflect back at you, but it's not a hard thing to start up. So hopefully by the end of today's session, you'll be able to go out, use some of those links, save a little bit of money, not spend as much as I did, and get yourself going. And this is how you reach me. Web, email, Twitter, Facebook. If you go to the website, I have a little screenshot right there that shows you exactly what my contact page looks like. It emails to me, and I've got a little bit of help. So between myself and the other helper that I have, we should get back to you. So thank you so much.